Welcome to the Infinite Mindset Podcast, the show where we explore the power of the infinite banking concept and how to take control of your financial future. I'm your host, Andy, along with Scott and frequent guest Jared. We're here to help you think bigger, build smarter, and create freedom on your own terms. Let's get started. All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. So we've been doing webinars for about 9 months, but we decided that we wanted to make it a little bit easier for people to actually be able to hear what we're saying and what we're doing. So hopefully this is going to help with that. You got myself, Scott, and Jared. And on this first episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm actually going to dedicate this one to my grandmother. Unfortunately, we were delayed. A big part of that was because she passed away. But one thing with her that was pretty amazing is she lived for 100 years. And when I say lived, I mean, she really did live life. She was on her own right up until the end. And I think all of us would wish for that and hope for that for any loved ones that we have out there. So this one's dedicated to her. All right, Scott, anything you guys want to touch on before we start getting into it a little bit in the intro?
No, it's pretty incredible that your grandma lived to be a centurion. That's awesome, to say the least.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And guys, I want to say thank you as well, because I know we had this plan to go for a while and everybody was really cool and very flexible, as all of us would be. Things pop up and we have to adjust as that happens. Kind of just to jump right into it. So this is the intro. I know a lot of people have been listening for a while, but for those that have not been here before and haven't listened to what we have to say, quick background on me. As an econ major, I was doing things very much the traditional way. On paper, everything looked great, but I was at the mercy of the banks. And then COVID started coming along. And at about that point, I started looking into different stuff. And I had a buddy in one of the fighter squadrons that actually put me onto IBC. He showed me the book. As luck would have it, the practitioner that I ran into, I knew for over 20 years, actually my mentor as well. And once I read the book, it just jumped right out at me. It was kind of one of those things. How do I get started? And I almost had to be pulled back a little bit because I wanted to get going so much. Or Scott, when you guys want to jump in with your background and kind of how you got here.
Yeah, when I was first officer at American Eagle back in 2008, when one of my roommates' friends worked for a company and a practitioner, but a couple whole life policies, had no idea what I was buying. I was like, okay, it accumulates, cash value and has death benefit. And that's all I knew about it. 18 years later, I've actually discovered this IBC thing. And I was like, well, hey, I got one of those, or two of those rather. And accumulated value, and I'm using it to do some other things. Was truly generating passive income, to finance a couple of things that, just for privacy reasons and such. But yeah, I kind of tripped into it, didn't even know it. Got to the point now that I'm going to work on my insurance license and go through the practitioner course and help and spread the word on this, and hopefully help others at this point and be able to finance their lives and others, hopefully. So
that's awesome. What do you got?
That is great. Yeah, I had my thing muted earlier. I was going to say how cool that your grandmother made it through not only 100 as a number, but living to the fullest the whole way through. So really cool. We love that we get to dedicate that to her this episode, the first one. Yeah, similar style of background in terms of growing up in pretty humble roots. Like, grew up south of Buffalo, New York, to a, lower middle class type of family that we didn't live high on the hog. I didn't know what that looks like. I still don't know what that looks like, but we were always, taught how to save, where to put some money, and then how to spend it real quick too. What all that looks like in terms of just a family setup. There was a great mentor in my dad that taught a lot about finances, but not necessarily a lot about growing and or maintaining the wealth that you earned. So very fortunate to make it into a professional, pilot setup where I really, really enjoyed what I was doing and how I was doing it. And same thing as Scott, I kind of stumbled into IBC, through the cockpit. Somebody would have said, hey, have you ever read this book? And I was like, no, but I'll check it out. And the first time I read it, I was like, this makes a lot of sense. I really see where they're going with this. And I was like, I wanted to learn more. So I start digging in, and you start looking at some of, when you don't know anything about it, you look a lot at the cost, right? At what it costs to put money into these programs, to the policies. And it could be a huge deterrent. And that's what it was for me. It was like, oh no, that's too expensive. I can't afford that. Maybe someday when I'm really uber rich, I can talk about this. And then it took someone kind of re-rattling the cage about 7 years later, where someone brought it up again, a different person in the cockpit and said, "Hey, have you ever read this book?" I was like, "Yeah, that thing is nonsense." They're like, "Well, I think you should really look at maybe revisiting it. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. Just take another look at it." And so I did. And the more I read it, the more it made sense. And not only the more it made sense, but the more I felt horrible in the sense that I didn't do that previously. I had the opportunity to do that 7 years ago. And now I really had to prove to myself that I had made the right call 7 years ago. So I really just did kind of a deep dive. And the more I read, the more it made sense. That was when the light bulb went off. And then we put IBC in place for our family. And we've been doing that now for quite some years. So I don't know. That's kind of a general high level recap.
I love it. The thing that I hear here that's pretty cool, and there is a spectrum. There are people that are on one side that they hear this and they jump in right away. There are some people on the other that are never going to do it. And then there's somewhere in the middle. A cool thing about the three of us, and you can tell, and there's a reason why Nelson dedicates the first third of the book to human behaviors. We were all saving. It was just a matter of pivoting and how we save and what we can do with that capital. Everybody's on a different journey. And I think you hit the nail on the head. That first step is the most difficult. I will tell you now, with all three of us, and we talk about all the different things we're doing, I couldn't imagine operating any other way, right? I couldn't imagine going back to the conventional way of doing it, but I also understand where people are that are just getting into it and they're trying to figure it out. So that's kind of what we do. We facilitate that. We're not here to push or do anything else. We're going to meet you where you're at. If you want to take that next step, great. If not, great. And if you just want to talk for a while to see if you're ready to take a step, then we'll do that too.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's so perfect to say it that way too, because we're just trying to meet people where they're at, wherever that is, because if you're on either end of the spectrum or slapped right in the middle, there's a variety of financial problems that everyone is going to stumble on. And if everything's going perfect, you still have the issue of where am I going to save and how can I do so in a really productive, effective manner? And so, there's a 1,000 other issues that could pop up along the way that these are really, really set up for help. So well said.
I think for me too, being on the other side of it and getting started, I didn't know this at the time, but I had 3 policies in place when I ran into my first hiccup. It was selling a home. And I will tell you that, long story short, there was a cloud on the title. I thought we were about to sell. The property didn't go through. I was out of the house. And all of a sudden I'm in a situation where I've taken on a lot more debt than I need to, and I have a lot more expenses. It wasn't an ideal situation, but I had access to capital. And so it really wasn't a problem. It delayed things. It cost me a little bit of money. It's a situation I wish I wasn't in, but I also couldn't imagine going through that, having to rely on a bank or being in a situation where I would have really had to take a hit on a home. And I took a little hit for other reasons, just because I was ready to move on, but not because I was short of capital, which is a very different mindset.
Yep. Yeah. We're even looking at it, just a small scenario here now where, we're in a great spot. We've got these policies that have built up to a very comfortable spot. And we just had, not to take away from your grandmother, but we just had a really, really unfortunate event with someone in our small group who lost a child, had an 8-year-old child that passed away. And I was just talking with the missus last night. I was like, I feel really compelled to help out with some of these medical bills. I know we can't wipe them clean, but let's take some from our policy that we built. Let's help these folks out. I'll pay it back over 12 months. Like, to be able to be in that spot is such a position of not only gratitude and love, but in power as well, to be able to feel like you can help someone in some of their darkest times.
I will take it a step further as well, of the fact that you're able to do that. But think if these people were practicing infinite banking, they wouldn't even have to rely and go do a GoFundMe or something like that. And so that's something that pops up for me as well. I feel for these people, don't get me wrong. And if I'm in a situation, I'm absolutely going to help them. But what if you can
100%.
help people help themselves? That's kind of the next step. And that's kind of the way I look at this. I don't want to be relying on anyone else. I want me and I want my family to be in a position where, yes, there's going to be grief, but they're going to be in such a financial position that is not going to be something they're going to have to deal with.
Yep. Well said. The other thing that I think pops up for me in just the last 5 or 6 months is that, the more I read Nelson's book, the more I realize how faith forward he was too. He was not shy about what his beliefs were. He didn't say everybody else had to do that, but he was very, very forward with where his beliefs were. And that's been really encouraging to me as well. And in a pretty crazy time that we live in where you got to be really careful where you say, what you say, who you say it to. I'm not hesitant or shy about talking about that either. So that's been another part of the just getting back in and reading his book again that's really hit me in the face.
It speaks to everybody differently. I think that's important, depending on where you're at, what's
Yep.
going on. You're going to take from it what you need to take from it. But unfortunately, when you get to meet him, but hearing things secondhand, the guy was pretty amazing in the stuff that he put out there. And he helped people in a lot of different ways.
Great. Yep.
Speaking of helping other people, I know I've seen it on other webinars, other podcasts that when you get to the point where you're financing your own life and helping others finance theirs, through whether it be your children or, something of that nature. But people have small policies for, the local volunteer rescue squad, the local volunteer fire department, the church, schools, stuff like that. But they'll have a small policy set aside. They're still using the capital to finance their life or others' lives. But, it's there if that institution or a department needs it. It's, when they graduate, the death benefit goes that direction, and, kind of like your legacy lives on through that. So.
Yep. Yeah, we're going definitely down the death benefit side, but yeah, we also use this mainly for the living side as well.
Right.
The death benefit is definitely a nice thing for those that are out there if they need it. Yeah. Kind of getting back.
Let me kick it back to you then. What would be some of your main goals? We're just kicking off brand new podcast. What are some main goals you'd like to see over the next 3 to 6 months come out of this?
Yeah. So one thing we're doing, thanks, Jared, that's spot on. So Scott is actually getting ready to become an authorized practitioner. You hit on a little bit when you were talking. You're about to take your life insurance license. And Scott's been in the IDC world for quite a long time. Don't let that fool you. He's very knowledgeable, but he's decided to take the next step. So we're going to follow him on his journey to become an authorized practitioner. And then different topics that he has to cover through that course, we're going to unpack those a little bit in podcasts as we go forward. So it's going to be kind of step one through the first 3 to 6 months of him getting up. And then from there, we're going to pick up different topics that kind of come up because they come up naturally. It's not even like you have to look for them. A lot of the times what happens is I get questions from clients, and it's one of those things, instead of keeping that a secret, let's get that out to the masses. So we'll definitely do stuff like that. And then the other side is too, if somebody does have a topic or something's popping up, or there's something new or different that they want us to unpack, absolutely bring it out to us, and then we'll cover it in an episode. So it's probably the next 3 to 6 months and beyond is what we're looking at. But this is going to be a collaboration. So Scott, Jared as well, if you guys have anything that you want to cover, you can say it now. We'll just kind of wait as they come up. If there's anything or any visions you have, feel free to enter those in.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty that comes up over the next 3 to 6 months as I go through this process. I have a lot of questions, how to handle certain situations, what the best strategies for certain situations are. You think how many people are out in this world and how many everybody's situation is different. So this should be interesting to say the least. Be a learning experience for all, for sure.
Yeah, I will tell you, I've got a bunch of stuff kind of rattling around up here right now, and I'm eager to get it out, but it's the intro podcast. And so I don't want to be here for the next 4 hours. So we'll just kind of start with the intro.
Right.
And go from there. But that's a very much at 30, that's like the 80,000 foot view of what we're doing right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. To cover that, I want to talk about too, is just even the title. So we were throwing down a few different names and settling on the infinite mindset. So for me, it's kind of two things that come up. One is the living benefits that we talked about. And so it's that thinking infinitely, not being limited by capital. So as things pop up, what can you do because you do have access to capital now and you don't have those barriers between you and doing something different or being reliant on the bank. And the other side, and this is really for me, when I think infinitely, it's not just the next generation, it's multiple generations out. And so it's not just setting up the capital, it's setting up the financial wisdom so that when that capital is passed on, the next generation and follow-on generations understand what they have and how to use it. And the commercial bank, if they so choose, is never going to be something that's going to limit them anymore. I'm not saying that they'll never work with a bank or do anything like that. I realize, you can get huge on that spectrum, but having the option is what I'm getting at, that you're going to have enough capital that you can do what you need to, and you're not going to be at the mercy of some other institution that's out there.
I think that's pretty well said. The word infinite, it's continuous, ongoing education, get other generations to, see the light or hopefully see the light. And if they don't, like we're talking, you can be completely against it, completely for it, somewhere in the middle. Everybody's got to do their own thing, but hopefully, teaching further generations on how to do this and, to operate from that position of strength, and then have it passed on to their generations too. Powerful. So
It is. It's
Yeah,
just, yeah.
the
Go ahead.
mindset piece of that was the one that really resonated with me. Infinite is obviously a part of infinite banking concept. So that one's pretty easy to understand where that comes from. But the mindset, it takes someone to rethink your thinking. Like, you are outside of the box. You are outside of what Wall Street tells you should do. You are outside of what your local bank tells you should do. You're outside of what your relatives may tell you should do. And you got to be okay with what that sounds like. Now, that doesn't mean every single person goes running down this path full bore 100 miles an hour. But if you're not willing to think about it just a little different, you're probably going to fall behind and or choose not to do it. Again, which is both fine. These are both acceptable pathways. Yet to see something that is off the beaten path, you do have to change your mindset. You have to understand where that comes from. And so the mindset piece, and especially as it relates to Nelson saying, rethink your thinking, the mindset part of that really, really resonated with me. So I love the name.
Oh, yeah. And thanks, Jared. You definitely helped tweak that one a little bit. So thank you. I think what you're hitting on there, and it's really important, is asking the right questions, those why questions. Why are others pushing me to go down this road? And that true understanding, it takes a while. It does. I mean, I know the three of us have read quite a bit. And it doesn't happen right away, and it may not even be that instant aha moment. It may be something gradual that happens. Jared, for you, you were saying, you saw this book and it took multiple years, and then talking to somebody else in the cockpit and finally came back. It probably wasn't a boom. It was something gradually that happened over that time period.
Yep.
Yeah, those questions, asking the right stuff. And then the other thing is not why certain people are asking me to do it. And I'm talking about institutions. It's other people as well. They've been programmed to think a certain way. It's not that they're bad people or doing anything different. It's just that's the way you were taught. And until you actually, I don't know if pushback is the right word, but at least question different things and understand. Maybe it is the right way to do it for some people, but at least if they understand why they're doing it, that's fine. There's a great example. I was listening to another podcast recently, and they were actually talking about another practitioner. And anyway, this guy, he had been told about he had not been told about infinite banking. A friend of his was doing it for a couple of years, and he finally told him about it. And he goes, "Dude, why didn't you tell me about this 2 years ago?" He goes, "You weren't ready. I could tell where you were at. I was going to give this to you, and it wasn't going to resonate with you." He's like, "I could tell based on your journey and where you're at now, this is going to make sense." And as soon as he did it, he jumped right in. But had he done it 2 years earlier, and the guy acknowledged, he's like, "I don't know if I would have done it back then, because my mindset where I was at, I wasn't ready to tackle this."
All said.
I think I have a couple close friends that are in that category that they see what I'm doing and they're like, "That's pretty neat." And it's like, yeah, but I mean, I talk to them about it and stuff, and there's a lot of times when I'm referred to another podcast, I'm like, there's an episode about that, or there's a chapter in the book for that, or and it's like, yeah, I listened to it, and it's like, well, hey, just haven't quite got it yet. So hopefully, expanding my knowledge, I can help themselves, hopefully, here in the very near future. So it'd be pretty cool to see.
It's also a perfect way of saying,
pretty cool to see
when you're talking about when you're talking about it, there's a reference in the book for that. I mean, that comes back to the basis of this entire podcast is the book. R. Nelson Nash, Becoming Your Own Banker. It's all you need. There's a whole slew of variety of sources after that you can go learn more on, dig deeper, do all you want. All 92 pages that he put together answers anything you'd ever need for infinite banking concepts. So, to make sure that here in the intro podcast, I think that goes unstated, maybe not unstated, but you can just glass over it because it's already assumed. Well, let's state it for the sake of stating it. That is the bedrock of infinite banking concepts.
Yeah. And there's another practitioner, we can't take credit for it. He actually developed a way to unpack that book and read it in an order that's not quite from page 1 through 92. It's actually going slightly differently. I really like that. So I'll put a link in here as well as far as how to do that. So if you are just new to it, or even if you're revisiting it, making sure that you read it in the right order so that it makes the most sense. And the way I kind of look at it from a pilot perspective is there's objectives basically that he puts out, but the objectives are so far down into the book, it's the back, that if you read the entire book and get there, you may not even understand why you're reading it. If you start off with that and you can come back and reference it, there you go. It helps out quite a bit.
Gotta have it.
Same.
Yep.
All within reach.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I didn't even know this was going to happen, but you know it's going to happen, right? Otherwise, I feel like this is like
It's
a
out.
squadron coin. We're also, yeah. If I didn't have it, I was taking a shot, I guess.
I'll share a picture when I went up, and halfway up the mountainside, I had my water bottle and I had my handgun, my sidearm, and mountain lions out there, and that's sitting next to me with my book. I'd read a little bit, flip through it. It's no joke. I took it up the mountain with me in my backpack.
I love it.
That's next level. I can't say that I've done that before, but yeah, respect.
I was like, well, I'm like, what am I gonna do till the elk start bugling? Like, oh, let's take this.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I think without the risk of going down a road we probably don't need to go down on the first podcast, unless you guys have anything else. I'm pretty good there.
Yeah, I got nothing else. I'll just throw it out there. I was just out of cell service and communication for probably close to 20 days between a vacation, a cruise, and an elk hunt. Kind of put up a little bump in my license taking, but I renewed the course before I left. That way it'd still be available to me. I'm going to go through that again and get this test scheduled, hopefully sooner rather than later. But that's what a little bit of delay thus far was.
I love it. Maybe on the next episode, we'll talk about kind of what that was like for you getting your license, just how high that barrier of entry is to becoming a life insurance agent, and why we actually go to move on to the authorized practitioner course to get a bit smarter.
Right. For sure.
And awesome, that you're doing that. And kudos to you both for being so bold to put this out there. And I know we've done a lot of different webinars or whatnot, just talking together, but taking the next step and getting the pod out there, like kudos to you both. I know Andy and I are very similar mentality to just be a constant student. And here you are, Scott, you are a constant student. You're doing it right now. So, best of luck in that journey. I'm really excited to follow that along with you and be a part of that. So
I appreciate it. Yeah, I gotta give credit where credit is due. I'm a busy person with a 5-year-old. I mean, everybody, has life and stuff, but between a 5-year-old and work, and then my girlfriend's dad has a farm that I work on. Actually, that's where I'm headed next. Picking corn, but I'm busy. So I got to give credit where credit is due. Andy and Jared have done more on the background than I can say that I've done. So, but I do appreciate that, and hopefully, of course, and everything, I can, make my solid contributions towards this as well.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I think the group we've got here, I think we're gonna learn, and I think hopefully we'll bring some stuff to the people out there as well.
For sure.
All right, thanks, guys.
Love it.
Thanks for tuning into The Infinite Mindset. If you found today's conversation valuable, share it with someone who's ready to think differently about finances. And don't forget to subscribe. Your journey to financial freedom starts with the right mindset.